welcome to Will Go Further. I'm your host, Will Huff, business coach, photographer, mentor, and also the owner of Yoenzo. And I'm here with my good friend, Grant Hubbard. Grant, I tell people you've turned hustle, confidence, and bravado into a brand, but I wouldn't know what to title you as. So describe yourself to the viewers of like who you are.
Oh man. Hey, well, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me and reaching out. You've been a great friend of mine for, I'm sure we'll get into it, but a long time. But who is Grant? Grant is the custom gutter guy. Grant has been a gutter guy for 28 years. But really I'm a giver and I do a lot of things with intent. So the brand that I built now is someone that is constantly giving. That's my focus. That is my purpose. And through the giving action, I'm receiving a little bit. I do have a family to provide for. So, but yeah, I got some flair. I got some pizzazz. I got some shine.
You know
me.
Since I've known you, we met in 1993, I think is the year that we met. Mm-hmm. And you've always been self-conscious about your image. You've always been the clothes, the chain, or like you wanted people to see you in a specific way. How, for building your brand, how important is cultivating your image and sticking to it?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. You're right. And I think being that we're both such good friends, that we'll probably have some moments of vulnerability on here. So let's dive right into that with truth, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, my childhood was a little bit different, but not very unsimilar to a lot of children in America and around the world. I had a tough upbringing. And so it was very important how you looked, right? Because how you looked kind of, that outward image obviously kind of allowed you to not have to have a discussion about how you felt inside. People wanted to talk about your clothes, your hat, your shoes, etc. So moving many, many years down the road as my confidence really was built up and I maybe didn't need to necessarily be so intrigued with fashion, I wasn't able to move away from it. It was part of who I was. And people are used to seeing me, whether it's in suits or nice shirts or a jersey, just something out actually in the field working, because I'm one of those people that doesn't collect stuff. I work hard, I buy stuff, and I wear it. So people are used to seeing me in nice clothes.
That's right. But you touched on something. You didn't do it because you wanted people to think, hey, look what I have. Look what I have. You wanted a discussion to be like, I am a man doing things, or a kid, even when we were kids. I'm someone doing things. I'm not stuck in a situation that I don't want to talk about. Just look at me. I'm going places. That's where your fashion stuff came from.
It really is. And it's so very awesome that at this specific moment in time, I'm realizing more about somebody I consider to be one of my best friends in the whole world, and that you know me so well. And it's that's like a really cool moment that I'm just going to enjoy right for this second. So that's very true. And that depth right there is very important in coaching, right? So that when you're able to understand the why people are doing things for. Right?
Yeah. But, in my opinion, I've seen you, I'm going to say fake it till you make it type thing. Mm-hmm. Where you have talked like you know what you're talking about before you actually knew what you were talking about, because I think you had a vision of that was your future self. Am I touching on that right? Or did you
100%?
Did you know 100%. Where you were going?
I think that it's okay. I'll use you, for example. You're so educated and informed in politics, right? And economics and just the state of the world, right? And I am not. I'm focused on other things. But I wouldn't have a problem sitting down with you and talking politics. And now with the confidence the man I've become, saying, well, Will, I don't want to speak on that because I don't know about it. Please, I'd like to take this time to actually listen and learn and grow, right? Whereas as a young man, me specifically, because we know what I was searching for. I was looking for attention. I also knew in my heart, because the yearn to find my purpose was so strong, that I knew that I was going to find it. And so when I found my purpose, I knew exactly what to do with it. I didn't have to spend many more years honing it. So yeah, faking it till I made it in conversations. Yeah. In the 90s and in the 2000s, as a young adolescent, with not much support, completely supporting himself, you had to do things, and you can be a very lonely place. And so when I say you have to do things, like if you're searching for your why, your purpose really, really hard, you're going to jump around to different social circles and see where you fit in. And I knew the ones that I wanted to be in, right? Which was the business elite, the entrepreneurs, the givers, the chairmen of the board. I wanted to be on the board. I knew I didn't want to be under the board.
Got it. And you wanted to be with the playmakers. And a lot of times you kind of forced yourself into being in playmaker circles. And just by having the confidence that you belonged there, what is the importance of having that confidence when you're in the mode of building a business, getting a new job, trying to reach your goals? What importance does that confidence play that you belong?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that I'm still constantly trying to achieve a specific answer for what you're asking. But to touch on it, there's two sides. There's just saying flat out, this is going to work. There's some people that say they're going to design a cup, right? And for the first time, and they're going to say, this cup is actually going to work. Doesn't matter if I got to sell everything, my house, whatever, this invention, this cup is going to work. I'm not. Then there's other people that are like, man, I sure hope this works.
And which one is going to be the more successful one?
I mean, it depends on a lot of surrounding factors, to be honest. One thing about me, and I'll separate myself from the pack right now, is that there is no one right answer. And maybe through an old insecurity or people holding you to every word that you say now and getting hung up on certain very slim ideas, then ideas are okay to be really broad. Responses are right to be very broad. It is okay to absolutely identify and articulate exactly what you mean to people, especially if they are interested in learning and growing. I'll tell you one person specifically that has helped allow me to be somebody more allow me to be myself more. Because as I found my purpose, which is a giver and a supporter, I know that the truest form of Grant, without ever feeling backed into a corner or, like I'm restricted in my own personal growth. Jordan Peterson, I got to see him with my wife, let's just say 6 months ago or something. And I didn't know what to expect, although I had watched a tremendous amount of his stuff and read his stuff. But in real life, the amount of time that he takes to think and respond and then take you on this journey was super acceptable to me. And I wish more of us did that, including myself. So back to the original thought, right? Where there's two kinds of people. One that says, this is going to work no matter what. I believe in myself. I've already been tested. I'm battle tested. Anything that I decide I'm going to do within reason is going to happen, and I'll communicate during that time well. I'll process during that time well. I'll work well with others, etc. But the guy that's kind of like has to be more reactionary because his initial thought was, gee, I sure hope this is going to work. I'm going to give it my best shot. I just think that could have a slightly different outcome. It doesn't mean that
I think it could slow you down.
It can. I mean, yeah, if we're just going to get straight to the point, I think the majority of the time it slows you down. Lack of confidence is very, 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 very huge, period.
When you have a lack of confidence, to me, it seems like you don't believe in what you're doing or what you're selling, and people don't buy from people that, or like, that feel like they don't want to feel like you don't believe in it. So why should I believe in it? And I sometimes could see that with myself when it's like, hey, what's your purpose? What direction are you going? What lane are you going in? And I'm like, well, I want here, maybe here, maybe here, maybe here. And when that happens, people don't see you as being like, man, this guy knows what he wants, where he's going to go for it, and how he's going to get it. And so when you have the attitude of, I'm hoping, I think it holds you down and holds you back and slows you down, because you should be clear and definite on your goal and your target with a map and know that you're going to get there. And you have to have a clear, definite goal, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. You coach people. What do you tell them about goal setting?
It's called the best word for it is vision, right? And I don't want to lose that thought, but I want to back up a little bit to you because this is a very fascinating conversation that we're about to have and that we're starting to have right here about me and you. So much growth is going to happen in this conversation. And although the intent is viewership, right? A good story, some education, and
but people need to see real and learn from it.
People have to see real and learn from real. So, Will, you have been someone I've looked up to since we both had, and we still do, HU as the first two letters of our last name, which meant for some reason in school that your lockers are going to be next to each other. And
your seats are going to be next to each other. Your schedules are going to match. They're going to mirror.
Had some fun. So we were new, and all of this is very pertinent to what you're asking about the coaching and setting goals. You have to move on from the past, but you have to own it. You have to own the past. Like, let's say you had an old 1992 Chevy, like the little one. I can't even remember what they were. Chevrolet Chevette, or a Ford Escort, the first one or something. And it was always broke down, and maybe you lost girls because of it in high school, or you lost jobs, or you didn't make it to sports practice on time. Whatever it was just a really sore point in your life. But I think it's okay to, grow up and mature and then be like, man, I had several of these cars that were total crap,
some hoopties,
and I don't have to live that way anymore, right? So to you've always owned your past. We talk about this in our friendship, how we were poor and certain different struggles that we encountered, again, like many others. Mm-hmm. When I realized that I wasn't the only one that was hurting, that was alone, that had a broken home, that was hungry sometimes, that didn't ever get a proper haircut, things like that, I was like, actually, this is fairly common, even though we're in the greatest nation. You had all these dreams, and you said a long time ago some of those dreams, and then you started traveling and you acted on them, and you were still okay saying, hey, I was very, very poor. You use different words. Those are your words. Mm-hmm. But I've watched you jump from vision to vision to vision, and they've all been in the same circle while you try to identify yourself. And I want to be honest with you about something in this moment in our friendship, again, and being vulnerable. What I admired was that you were doing something I wasn't. And here I want to bring together that this cup is going to work versus the I really hope this works mentality. I didn't go out on a limb, Will, like you did. I worked very hard to be this gutter influencer in the sheet metal world and the seamless gutter business. Quite frankly, in the home service business, these businesses are rinse and repeat with certain processes and systems. Steve Willis, you know him, Jason Willis's father, offered me a job at a very young age, 1996, and there I started my gutter career. And through a tremendous amount of life mistakes, I somehow was able to stay in this career until today, 28 years later, as a man who didn't know how to do life, and I'm still learning how to do life. I'm great at gutters. So what I'm saying is, my path was actually fairly easy to this success that I found because I've only chosen to do one thing.
Consistency.
I'm not out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
I'm not out of my comfort zone saying that me and my partners own the best home service coaching program that there is on the planet. I'm comfortable saying that. We have a tremendous, but man, if me and you had just opened a alligator farm and you knew about alligators for 30 years and I didn't, I sure hope this alligator farm works.
Yeah.
And that's the path you've taken, the one of least resistance. So here's a compliment. I am doing now what I love because of what it has done for me. I'm not trapped in a corporate America job. I'm not trapped in any job. I'm not an employee of anyone now. I'm an owner of some businesses. And I love those businesses. And it just so happens that because my Father, God, has taken care of me and my hopes and dreams through his grace, I have this confidence that as long as the intent is correct, I will be successful in whatever I do. But I'm sticking to my lane, brother, because I faked it for many years. And now I am the guy. I really know my stuff.
You are the custom gutter guy.
Yeah. And so I got lined up. The planet aligned me well with something I did get stuck in that paid very well, that I did enjoy, and that I still actually love. The gutter coaching business industry allows me to be with people. I don't care about metal or seamless gutters or houses, or I love my wedding ring, but this stuff, I'm just used to being in very comfortable clothing. I can absolutely do without. So I love people. I love helping people. I like making people smile. I like giving to people what other people continue to just say, it costs more, it costs more, it costs more, it costs. If you want more knowledge, it's more, it's more. And I learned, I'm becoming wise to giving knowledge to others. I'm learning the proper ways to communicate with different personalities, because the coaching has nothing to do with about the product. It has to do with how you make the person feel. And I make people feel really strong because we're born that way.
And, there's one of my favorite authors' name is Simon Sinek, and he says people don't buy what you do; they buy why you do it.
Yeah, and people know what the intent is with me, 100%.
And so with your coaching, they're buying you do it because you want to help people. When you were selling gutters and going out and trying to make the sales on that, they were buying it because you wanted to help their property improve. You wanted to make it look better. You could see, man, this property, we could cut out this problem, and improve the look. You had that where it wasn't just about, I want to sell some gutters. You actually liked improving the value of a property and the look of a property and fixing the problems that it had. So you have always, you have always solved your why you do it. You've shown it because you believed in it. But you've been doing this since 96. You were an employee. You were a worker. You've always, our families come from workers, long lines of workers. When did you know you were a businessman and no longer wanting to be a worker?
I knew probably right away at a young age as a leader. When I remember one of the very last soccer games I played, you would know better than me, but in Michigan off of Hickory Ridge Road, if you're heading north on 59 towards Pontiac and you made a left on Hickory Ridge Road, so headed west, and you took that out, there was all the soccer fields out there. I remember my very last game, and I was actually goalie. I was really good at sports, but I was goalie, and I had like 3 goals, and I played goalie. I had a monster leg. I would come out really far, and I had one of the most exciting games of my career, and I was really, really good at soccer, not football and any of that other stuff, but soccer. I remember moments like that at a young age, maybe because I'm a type of an empath, but like I'm in tune with what's happening around me. I have amazing situational awareness. I knew that life was going to be really hard. And to really answer your question, it took many years of getting over trauma to unlock what I thought I had been feeling and identify it and put words to it through probably maturity, which took me forever.
Mm-hmm. Now a lot of people might not know, like, a lot of your history, like even people who really know you. We went to 8th grade together, and then at the beginning of 9th grade, you disappeared. For everybody in Milford High School up there in Highland, you were all of a sudden gone. You had some big time stuff you were dealing with at a very young age.
Well, let me add to that what people didn't know, and maybe what you know, but we haven't probably had specifics, is, that when I met you, I had actually just came back.
Mm-hmm.
I had already been gone. When I met you, what was so encouraging, and I think which is the foundation outside of that, I love you as a human being and a brother, and we've had fabulous moments together. That you were the first person I met as a somewhat functioning adolescent that wasn't behind the wall.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we had fun right away. It was like we were both kind of quirky. We were both poor.
Class clowns.
It wasn't like, class. We goofed off. Let's see. We said we were going to talk about Mr. Fincham. Mr. Fincham. So this is our history teacher that,
that was the first class we met in.
Yeah, Mr. Fincham, and it was sometime around when he pulled out the piece of gum with all the hair in it and said, "There's no chewing gum in my classroom because such and such," and told us the whole story.
And then he showed us the jawbreaker of the kid that had choked on the jawbreaker. He had to do the Heimlich maneuver. He had a vampire steak. Man, he just kept everything. But
you know what? And that gave us character. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Fincham.
Yeah, he was not a boring teacher. He's a teacher we remembered. And when I got my master's degree and started teaching, it was one of those things, like, I didn't want to be a boring teacher. And we had, Mr. Marinucci?
Mr. Marinucci.
In high school there. He had that personality. He would have little dad jokes and things. And I based a lot of what I did on that because I didn't want to be a boring teacher. I wanted to change the lives of my students and be part of it and have them want to participate. But in that first class we met, that was Mr. Fincham was the first time I walked into Highland Middle School. I had just moved from the inner city.
Down.
And it was a culture shock to me being in a school with all white people. Like, it was very different. And so when I walked in and found someone that could speak my language, we could talk Wu-Tang or Green Day. It didn't matter. Like, we could take that, but our last names serendipitously put us together. It was the only thing that connected us on that first day was our last names being close and seating being alphabetic order. And you had an empty seat next to you. Mr. Fincham sat us there. You said, "Hey, what's up? I'm Grant." And then from there on, we didn't shut up.
Nah, we've been talking. Here we are. We're going to talk for a couple hours today, brother. I'm so happy to do it with you. I want to, is it okay if I just expound on something we were talking about? Because I don't want to lose it. Man, life's tough, right? And so if you can overcome little hurdles, and, we obviously want to use this for business. You want to overcome these little hurdles, right? You want to meet a new friend in school. He's got the same beginning of last name. We could talk Wu. Okay, that's a little hurdle, right? I've been in a really lonely place, and now I made a connection, right? Okay, so if we're not so damaged as human beings, because some people are really damaged, we can hold on to something like that. Other people have trauma that steals all of those little pieces of joy that I think all of us experience, but we're not allowed to hold. Our bodies can only hold so much, right? Like a computer chip or whatever. So if we have way more bad moments in life than we do good, it's going to be really hard to remember those good moments. unless we understand the power of pulling those out of ourselves. And I found that through my relationship with Jesus Christ at a young age. And I just want to expound on the fact that I'm alive and well today and becoming successful. What America would say is success. I've already reached success. I love the way that I feel when I am about to go out and serve to my purpose. But if people could find something that tells them that it's going to be okay, their higher power, whether it be some type of religion or spirituality or the stars or whatever it is for you, I really encourage people to understand that positive milestones are what is the actual foundation of you creating whatever your version of success is. So what is Will doing in that sense? You just went on an amazing trip and took mind-blowing photography pictures with your wife, who enjoys the same thing. And so if I was going to sit down and talk to Will and say, hey, I'm so happy to see you really start to dive into just a couple things versus a lot of ideas. All the ideas are great, but you need and if anybody has it, Will Huff needs about $1 billion. And I guarantee he'll 10x that for you. And he's got some amazing.
2 million will become 10 billion.
He knows his numbers.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I got it.
You know what, Will? I jokingly, and I say I'm going to have it soon, and I'm going to give it to you. So anyway, the idea is here to continue to encourage you to take those good steps, those winning milestones, and keep taking more photos. You're going to have the opportunity that you want, right? Because when preparation meets the opportunity, that's where you find the success. So I'm always preparing for it. You are now starting to always prepare for it. We just got to be prepared for a couple of things. We don't have to be prepared for everything.
But let's go into me for a little bit. When I would go in all these different angles, I have a master's degree in teaching. My other degree is in business and marketing. I have a minor in German and Spanish. I have a lot of education. I've worked almost every job you can name. I've been a pizza delivery guy. I've been a warehouse worker. I've cut trees. I mean, I've done everything at least for one day. I even built a house one day, worked on that. I've done almost everything, and it looks spattered all over and out of control, but I have such a roundabout knowledge of so many things that when I'm helping people now is helping them coach their business or what they're lacking, I can see it from so many different angles because I've done so much. But for me, I first thought of myself as successful when I think I was 28 years old, and I got to go study in Mexico. And I loved traveling. And so for the first time, I was able to start doing what I liked, and that was traveling. Traveling is what I love. I love being somewhere else, experiencing new things. And then the photography has been a new aspect of it, of capturing these moments.
Those moments.
But for me, I have thought of myself as successful since I've been able to live the life I wanted to live. It used to be a monetary thing. Then it became a lifestyle thing for me. You know what? I don't need all the money. I need internally the experience of what I'm doing. And that's when I started feeling like I was successful. And then once I started feeling successful, life really started changing for me. Absolutely. It was 32 years old when Gracie and I got married, and that was the perfect thing for me. And she's from Brazil, so we've been, to Brazil. We've been to all 50 states together. We've been to Europe together. And that has made my life successful without needing the money. And then when you have the money, it takes off the stress. And so now when people say money doesn't buy happiness, that is true, but man, it can help you fulfill what you're really wanting to do. So it does help. But we did both come from, we had childhood traumas. We had different things that we went on. But eventually, you and I both got to a point where we realized it was up to ourselves to fix it. We can't say, but mom did this, but dad did this, or we didn't have that. Or eventually we got to the point where we both had to say, I am responsible for moment right now. And one of my largest things is you can't control what other people do to you. You can only control how you react. And when you hold on to the negative, that's just weighing you down. It's like swimming with a cinder block. Let the cinder block go and you're going to be free. And that was the mentality that I didn't see in you letting go until probably the last few years. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, well, I realized when you say like that's like swimming with the cinder block, I take it a next further. I got rid of the cinder block and then I stopped swimming. I just started walking. The part that is really hard to connect is how when you're swimming. So I want everyone right now to visualize yourself in a pool, and you're not frantically swimming. You're just kind of there, front crawl. So envision that you're in a really huge pool, Olympic size. So you're just really chilling. Okay, now I come and I just lightly put the cinder block on your back. Immediately, we would kind of panic. Our body would, all those things would happen, right? So I want you to feel that now. Like, remember, sometime when you were swimming, and now in a real situation, not in a fake pool, and now I come and drop a cinder block on you. Think right now of that initial thought, that pain, that why, the angst, all of it. No one is really talking about the next step, which is how do you actually get the cinder block off of your body? Mm-hmm. You just say you need to get rid of the cinder block.
You got to let it go, man.
That's
just let it go.
That happens. Let it go. Yeah. I had to identify the processes for the cinder blocks and everything else that we are talking about, considering a cinder block. And I started to master a system. And I'm writing a book about this, but mastering the system of how to file things of importance in your head. And just understand this happened, this trauma happened. It's still there. It's in the right file. We can pull it up when we need to. And that's usually, again, when we're being put into a reactionary situation, we start to act out of strictly emotion versus system. So just systematizing your emotions and recognizing that it's time to add a little bit of growth or wisdom to those systems. Mm-hmm. It's just like business.
Now, I'm going to tell you, you're talking about religion. And for me, when I start getting the anxiety or just the feeling of, I don't know, there's a situation I can't control or some of that, my go-to is giving prayer, but not asking for anything. I don't pray and ask for anything. I pray and thank for everything I can think of. Like, I have an iPad, I have a microphone, I have a cup of coffee, I have shoes, I have a house I live in. I go through and I give thanks for what I do have. And that has always helped me start relieving the things. And there is a hole without God. There's a hole inside of you. And it's until you fill that hole, I think there's still going to always be that anxiety. But when you start giving thanks for what you do have, you stop thinking about what you don't have. And when you focus on what you do have and how that can help you get to where you want to be, I think you're just ready for takeoff.
Preach, brother. You already know. So having an attitude of gratitude, if you unpeel everything we're going to talk about today, and I can say that confidently with just knowing me and you and what our level of discussion is going to be, man, God is good. And I think not having to feel like I need to hide behind a business facade. It's really hard in the world, especially, and we're blessed with freedoms here in the United States. Mm-hmm. But it's hard if you're managing a business, CEO of any part of a business, even if you're just the guy sweeping the floor. Like, is it okay to bring up God at work? Is it okay to have that type of business and make it identify with certain morals that happen to come from the Bible and et cetera. And so I battle with that constantly, but what has been an amazing blessing, specifically even over the last couple of days, as you know, I was traveling around doing some training with some different gentlemen that are in my program. And man, I find like 90% of people that I get to deal with on a day-to-day basis, some phone calls I'm taking at midnight, 1 a.m, 5 a.m, 4 a.m, people want to pray. And I'm so grateful that God is allowing me to be someone that he's chosen to bring others to him. And I'm just like in the weirdest place in my life, because I wouldn't say it's a plateau at all, but like, I know what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. Like I literally know what's going to happen today. I'm going to tell someone about Jesus Christ and what he's done in my life, and they're going to feel it. And whether they decide to do anything with it or not, I've done my job. And I don't do it with malice, and I don't do it with judgment, and I won't do it with financial intent. Because everything for me starts right there, man. Everything. And then we can get to business, and there needs to be a charge for a service, and we'll help you grow. But like, God is so good, Will. He's been so good to both of us.
Always.
Because, man, for a long time when we didn't know him, it was so bad.
Yep. They always have that thing where you're walking on the beach and you look back and there were 2 sets of footsteps. There are probably times I should have died or gone to jail. And I feel that, there's something else more for me to do. But back onto your being with people, being a Christian to me, you shouldn't have to tell people. They should see God in you and your actions. And then when they find out what you're about, they can understand like, oh, that's not coming from him. That's coming through him. And so that's how I've always, and not always, but that's how I've tried to approach it. Where God should be coming through me. They should see me. I should be nice to people. I never know what anyone else is going through. I can't judge anyone else's situation. I don't want to be judged, because I know if people started judging me on my actions of the last 44 years, I'd be in big trouble. But luckily there's this thing called grace that has taken that away, where I don't have to worry about it because God's not worrying about it. And I shouldn't do that to other people. Like, unless it's like the Lord's Prayer, like you do to them, like, forgive me as I forgive them. And that's where I don't hold grudges. If grudges were held against me, man, I'd have a lot of people that hate me, because I know there are specific people in life where I was a net negative.
Yeah.
And
I know about that too.
I look at that and I say, man, I'm still embarrassed today when I think about some of that stuff where I was a net negative to other people's lives, but I've hoped they've let it go and forgiven me. And I have forgiven I don't hold grudges on anybody. People, they've done malice to me or things. It's not like it didn't happen. It stays there. It's a lesson. There are some people you shouldn't be around because either they're net negative to you or you're negative to them, or they bring something negative out of you. But it doesn't mean you hold bad feelings towards that person. But for me, I want everyone to see that I've been forgiven, I forgive, and I love, and it comes from me. So I know we have bad days. I'll cuss at someone in driving. That's the worst part for me. When I'm driving, I'm a totally different person. But overall, I gotta have people see it through me. But there's a mentality that you have to have, that you can't be successful with the wrong mentality. And when you're coaching people, what do you teach them on mentality for success? What does it actually mean to have the right mentality? Yeah,
people get blown away. And so anyone who watches this, I mean, you're just going to have to get to know me to understand if the way I'm about to describe this isn't going to make sense for you. But you got to be grateful for the opportunity. Like, it starts at the core of us, Will. You have to be grateful for the opportunity. I wanted to be a business coach so bad. And, I started Defenco, and I've been coaching people, all kinds of different businesses for quite a while. But when the real opportunity happened, and it was a real business, a real website, real clients, real money, I initially had to remind myself how grateful I was for the opportunity, because that allows our heart and soul to kind of access the rest of the process differently. You can get really arrogant and cocky in business and make brash moves, or grow too fast or grow too slow. So right away, I want people to understand, if you want to be successful in business, I need you to be grateful. Now, that doesn't mean complacent. Your business sucks right now. You have a decent idea. You have a good, okay model. You have a fairly okay branding. And I'm just like, hey, be grateful. And here comes the money. Now, it's ridiculous. But are you grateful for the opportunity? Totally different than someone who's like, it's been handed to, or, they haven't worked very hard for it, or they took the money from someone else to start it and then X'd out their partner. Like, so you start with gratitude, and then I just want to know how much energy you got, right? And once you let me know if you have a certain amount of energy, we're going to dive directly into what is your vision. And if the vision is to get rich, man, I want to make $1 million by tomorrow. Like, okay, that's cool, and I'm not mad at you by that either, but there's so many processes that have to happen before, and I think that's where people get really disappointed in business. Yeah, it'd be really cool if I started making $250,000 a year doing my own thing versus working for a factory or a construction job or something for 50 to 100K. I mean, that's possible to do, but not without all the processes, unless, again, you're a very lucky person, you hit some type of jackpot or something. You get into the seamless gutter business, and your brother-in-law owns a massive custom home builder thing, and he gives you all of the contracts, blah, blah, blah. That thing that happens to people sometimes, but that's not average small business startup. You're going to be light on capital. You're going to be huge on ideas, and you're going to probably not remember to be grateful and work hard. And then, unless you have a coach, a mentor, or a really good friend, books aren't just going to teach you what you need to know about business. You got to talk to somebody with experience. In a seamless gutter business, that happens to be me and my partners.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to books real fast. I liked reading books and business books and all that. But one thing I noticed about myself is I would take learning and count it as a win instead of doing anything. Do you see other people who like to say, well, I'm learning this, I'm studying this, I'm learning this, but they're not actually doing anything. So they're planted. They're learning, but they're not doing.
I'll give you an example. And so let's be on books really quick. So been a avid book reader most of my life. I haven't read like hundreds of thousands, but I've read some really good books. I'm not scared to read a book. And over the past 6 years, I've really started to ramp up book reading. And now with my partners, John DeLue, John Majak, and Tim Crouch, they're pushing some books my way that they're reading. They read them and then I read them. So it wouldn't be right. John has given me a huge opportunity to not just discuss this book briefly. Ring the Bell by John Majak. Powerful. I'm going to send one of these to you, Will. I've been sending them out, so I'll get one of these to you.
All right.
Great story about showing up for yourself. John's has an amazing story. You definitely want to check this book out. So outside of that, this book right here, and you're gonna love this. Mr. Gary V.
Day trading attention. We read that a couple weeks ago. I guess a couple months ago.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about jumping around. And I say outlandish stuff, whatever. I speak from the heart. So my buddy sent me this book, and I opened it. I got it. I opened it, and I was like, this is the next book I'm going to read, 100%. You were talking about people jumping around reading books. I'm being really meticulous, so I haven't actually read this book.
Oh, down goes the lion.
And down goes the lion. Well, things happen, and we keep on.
You just got to keep going.
Yep, keep going.
That should get us some attention. See, we can cut that into a reel, and get some attention. Like, it's almost like it played out that way. But with Gary Vee, Grant Cardone, and guys like that, they talk about how money follows attention. If you can get people's attention, that's way better than marketing, air quote. But your marketing plan should be about getting attention. But we could talk about some of that stuff in a little bit. But yeah, I felt that I was substituting doing with learning. And I think think that cost me a couple years, because I would read something and I'd be like, oh yeah, I internalize it, I got it. And I'm like, okay, I know what to do now. Let me read another book. And I wouldn't go do. I wouldn't start.
Do the action.
Yeah, I wouldn't take the first steps. I would just, and then it became to, well, I know how everything should be done, and if I can't do it perfectly, I'm not even going to start until I can do it perfectly.
100%.
And so I think that's a mindset that a lot of people also have to overcome, is the complacency of learning instead of doing. Learning what you should be doing, it's like you got to take the first step and do it, and don't let perfect be the enemy of progress. And
don't overdo it either.
Yeah. So
there's no need to overdo it, right?
Speaking of overdoing, let's go into doing stuff in excess. But how important has it been to you to change what you put into your body?
Man, so return on investment. I'm a business coach, right? Obviously, having a conversation around return on investment, how often do you think that happens? You start thinking. So a few years back, I was selling high-end wine, Camus. I had a good friend who owned a restaurant. He had a great connection on just some decent, medium to high-end wines. And so I was selling it basically to my other friends. And we're not talking a lot. It's just like, hey, I'd buy 4 bottles, and then each of, 3 other buddies would pick one up, right? We were doing this consistently. And I started, sometimes I'd buy a bottle, and, somebody would want a $200 bottle. I'd buy 3 or 4 of them. I know other guys would want them. And we would barter. It wouldn't even be for exchange of money. Maybe they had their own steaks, or maybe whatever it was. They did clothing, and mostly bartering, right? So anyway, I started losing money on that deal. I was like, buying a lot of wine here, and like, I'm not always getting paid for it. And what's the return on the investment? And all of a sudden, poof, as a person that has been drinking, most of my life, I liked having a good time, I started to say, what's the return on the investment on what I'm drinking? Who cares about the bottles I'm giving away? And that was when a huge moment of clarity happened to me. And I was like, something's got to change. And something has to change, because I wasn't functioning at an extremely high level. And I knew I wanted to function at a high level, and drinking alcohol was not helping me or anyone function at a high level. And if you have 2 beers after work, or a glass of wine once every 7 years, I'm just saying you're still not a better person because you drink that one wine. Like, you might become more outgoing, or overcome an insecurity, especially someone who's drinking, a lot. I like to party for sure when I was drinking. So, it's been a couple of years or so, man. I stopped drinking alcohol, but the return on the investment was horrible. If I spent $50,000 a year on alcohol because I like buying. I like picking up people's tabs. I'm a giver. Like,
shots at the restaurant.
Yeah, well, I was telling the guy the other night. Long story short, we were having a nice aged Wagyu ribeye. Robert Schultz took me out to a really nice dinner, and then they were like, "Oh, you don't drink?" And I was with a couple of gentlemen. Nah, and I don't have a problem telling them why. Like, man, I spent way too much money on it. And what would happen is I'd be in this restaurant, and maybe someone else would walk in that I don't even know, and they'd compliment my hat. Hey, that's a really awesome Detroit Lions hat. You got some different. You got the flag on there. That's a really cool hat. Awesome. What's your name? I'm Grant. Okay, cool. The minute he walked away, I'm getting the waitress, hey, I wanted to pay for their whole table. That guy's cool. But I'm doing this as a guy making $150,000 a year with a bunch of kids for the past 20 years. It's not sustainable. But I would only do that type of stuff if I was already having a couple drinks.
Mm-hmm.
I'd getting loose. And I have a fair amount of children, and it's not fair to them, my wife, myself, or my dreams to get loose with my money like that.
Outside of the money
thing, way of giving.
How is your brain, your function, your energy, and everything changed since you stopped drinking, smoking, all of that? Since that went out of your life, how has that changed you personally, not money wise, but you?
Right.
How's that affected you?
Gave me a lot more strength and courage because I had beat something that some type of corporation put out there for me to get addicted to.
Do you think you were an alcoholic?
Yeah, 100%.
And you were addicted to smoking, and
I was 100% a nicotine addict and a marijuana addict. Yes.
Have you replaced that with anything?
I have.
What is it? What is your replacement? Like we were listening to a book,
100%.
Grant Cardone.
Gratitude.
Oh yeah, we were listening to a book by Grant Cardone, and he was a drug addict. He said he replaced chasing the high with chasing money.
Yeah, 100%.
So,
well, for me, I just remember alcohol. It was the axe for me. I didn't care about actually being drunk.
Mm-hmm.
It was having the bottle gave me purpose to speak to people. I didn't drink at home. Will, a lot of people don't know this. I'm rarely,
unless people were over for a party. Yeah.
Every drink had a drink by myself. I never in my life have just had a glass of wine in an empty house or even on vacation. Never. That's crazy. To take a shot around noon on a Sunday because the wife and kids are in another state at your in-laws and you're about to watch a football game, take a shot? Man, that's disgusting. I could do 25 shots and run up a $10,000 bill, though, at a club.
You guys could be in Vegas and
yeah, come on now,
spend it.
If I'm doing it with someone else.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a cigarette, hand to mouth, same thing like that. So what I'm saying is what I replaced the alcohol and the cigarette with, because those were things, although the after effect of them health-wise, right, psychologically, the lack of sleep for, nights where you're really drunk or hungover, etc. It was just an action. So I said, I need a different action. Briefly, I did. I went to candy. I was like, that was stupid. And then I focused. Tiger Woods, Kobe Bryant, two people, athlete-wise, I 100% admire. There's maybe like Federer and tennis, the absolute pure stamina to be great, to be the best in the world. That was focus. I couldn't focus when I was smoking and drinking. So all I did, me personally, okay, no more smoking and drinking, focus. Mm-hmm. My new addiction. Okay, focus on what though? Focus on getting money. Grant Cardone's a much bigger monster than me. He has a different vision, and it's to be a very impressive capitalist with a tremendous amount of wealth. What he does with that, totally his business. I'm not okay I don't need to be that wealthy. I don't need to work. I don't need that return. I want people to smile. If I make $1 million a year or $500,000, as long as the bills are paid, like I already have what I need. I want to help other people get what they need.
You know,
doesn't have to be a paycheck behind it. So I'm just addicted to focus.
There we go.
I want to spread the word of God. I want to spread that feeling. Will, this is something me and you haven't talked much about. I don't know what the future looks like for me with that. Right now, I'm letting God work through me, and it's amazing that I'm speaking to different Christians every day.
You know, when we were in West Palm Beach living together, in the same city, we would go to church together.
Yeah.
But church was a Sunday thing. And then we'd go on Monday, and it's like we didn't go to church.
No.
So
come on now.
And so there is a time where it starts being in you instead of just being an action of going to church. So it changes that. And
it does. Growth.
Yeah. So you talked about your why being giving. Mine is to help people reach their goals and find their dreams. I had never been able to monetize that through all these years, but I've always done it in the music business. I'd help musicians. I helped a guy chart an album with zero budget. I just went to work and did stuff for people just because I liked helping people try to reach their goals and their dreams. And so knowing that helps me with the other things I'm trying to do, with having a show, coaching people, mentoring people, helping them when they say, hey, my business is struggling. I'm like, here's some things you could do, ... Like I remember you, I guess it was 2016 or 17. You were like, man, I'm wanting to get some other things. And I was like, you got to start teaching people. Start teaching people with videos. Get on there and teach people. And then you were like, okay. And then you were custom gutter guy teaching people how to use snips and how to bolt things up on a roof. And you took it and went with it. And so for me, seeing you getting places where I know we had these conversations, it helps me say, you know what, my why is being fulfilled because I'm helping other people. And that's why I became an English teacher, because these students from other countries had goals and English was their key to it. And man, that fulfilled a lot by helping them learn the language. So that was my why getting fulfilled. And when COVID came, job went away and all that, that's when I started photography, learning photography to put that into my marketing company. And then I get called into politics. And then that was because the why is getting fulfilled. Now somebody has a dream and a goal, and I get to run the whole show and help that. And then it's morphed into all the other things, but it still goes with the why. And then if you're addicted to chasing your why, you're going to do a lot more than you will with the other addictions. So for me, TV or, I don't watch too much TV, but playing on Facebook, those are the things that kill the time, that take away from going for the why. And so
there's a lot of hurdles set up.
Yeah,
there's
but you got to recognize
it's in front of the why.
You still got to recognize it's your responsibility. Yeah. And it's my responsibility to turn off the TV or put down the phone, stop searching. And I always have excuses for why I can spend so much time on Facebook. Well, it's helping me learn so I can market better and this and that. But
right.
But the self-responsibility is just a huge part to me. And I really believe you are 100% responsible for yourself. Nobody else is responsible for you. You are responsible for you, your kids, your wife.
Yep.
But nobody else is responsible for you. And that's where I like to aim all my mindset and mentality when I'm helping people. They'll be like, well, this person didn't answer the phone. Well, call someone else. This person didn't do this. Well, what did you do? How did you react to it? How did you overcome it? And when you're trying to help people grow as people or business, sometimes you got to point out to them what's their responsibility. And a lot of times people don't like it because they've never had the mentality of it. It's my fault. Have you run into that when you're trying to help people in the gutter business?
Yeah, we talk a lot about that, a lot of owners are the ones that are in the way of business. Owners often get in the way. They could be the visionary of the business. That's fine. I think the businesses that run the absolute best, and, remember, I'm talking more smaller business. I'm by no means a Fortune 500 or some massive corporate style business coach. I am the culture champion. I could come into your $1 billion revenue company guaranteed and spice up the culture and get your employees to give you a much better output. That's what I'm the star of. Absolutely. I'm excited if anybody has an opportunity or a challenge for me, and you have 1,000 people or 10,000 people, and you want to take their moral compass and open it up a little bit and allow them to start to change other people's lives in your business from employee to employee. That's what I do. But when you can talk about an owner and make sure that he can take his vision and make that vision so clear that the rest of the employees can come and just walk alongside of him and just keep going that direction, that's when magic happens. But a lot of employees are either bad, or owners are bad with money. They have way too big of a vision for the capital resource that they have. And depending on what industry they're in, what are those first things you actually spend capital on? If you're in a franchise model like a McDonald's or whatever, they give you this entire list broken down of specifically how much it's going to take to open the McDonald's, from having it painted, the sign, the playland, the boots, ice cream maker, all of it. Here's the list of everything. And McDonald's, of course, they just build it for you. But if you were in the seamless gutter business and you were in a franchise, they're going to give you a list of a ton of items that you would need to go buy. Mm-hmm. Well, sometimes that list of items isn't actually accurate. And especially if you don't have a franchise model and you're just winging it and starting a roofing company, unless you have a mentor, a friend, somebody to let you know, like, oh man, don't buy this thing first. Make sure you just get the dump trailer, this and this, and then use this capital for marketing to bring in more leads, et cetera, purchase leads per se, and know your numbers. This is a real rinse and repeat, Will. It's very, very rinse and repeat. And people that have $500,000 to $1 million to invest can start small business very well and make a tremendous amount of money, especially if you can 10x that. And then lots of people will tell you also get into real estate as well, blah, 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 blah. But the focus is the vision. Just like near you, we can't start and finish 15 different ideas. And I have to get people to understand that in our industry, if you're focusing on gutters, let's start with focusing on gutters. And then how do you treat people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And let's talk about what that success looks like for you. Put it on paper financially, and then work backwards and break it down to very small KPIs and tell you how to achieve those.
And that's what I like to talk to people about is, you call it vision, I call it a goal. It needs to be clear. It needs to be definite. And once you have it, now you say, how did I get there? And it's like following a map backwards. And you have to describe it like, okay, let's just pretend you want to be a social media follower and your definite goal is 500,000 followers in 1 year. How did you get there? Now you work it backwards. I made the post. I spent money on advertising. I did X, Y, Z all the way, and you build yourself backwards to where you realize, well, it starts with creating content, and then from there. If you don't know where the end is, you have no idea where you're going.
Yeah.
And so a lot of business people say, I want to be successful. What does success mean? If you don't know what being successful means, you can't get there. You have to know what your success is. For me, my success was being able to travel the world, see things. And, if I had to go in debt to do it and pay it back later, I had the ability to pay it back. So it was fine. If I wanted to go to Hawaii and put it all on a credit card and pay back and come back,
let's do it.
It is what it is. But I got to do what I wanted to do because I wanted to create content, or I had a specific thing I wanted to do. But if you don't know what you want to do or where the end is, you can't get there. You can't ever get to that goal without specifying it. But that goal can move later. Once you get to it, I think you got to always be setting goals. And because if you don't, you're just wandering around without a sail. You're just a ship that's just floating. And whatever happens. It doesn't matter which way you head. Like I can't remember the exact quote, but there was someone who I think it was a Cheshire cat in Alice in Wonderland. And she got to the fork in the road and said, "Oh, excuse me, can you help me? Which way should I go?" And he said, "Well, where do you want to be?" "I don't know." "Well, it doesn't matter." So it doesn't matter what actions you take if you don't know where you're going. And so
Let me ask you this. And I'm not the literary like you are, right, Mr. Professor?
Oh, I don't read.
And I struggle with certain word. I don't even know how to sit and output myself. That's buried my. Here, just take this shovel, bring this bulldozer. Let me dig myself into this word hole.
All right.
Wow. So I was going Jordan Peterson this thing, but it didn't happen because I fumbled the words, and I deal with that often. And this is what I want to bring up. You're saying goal. I'm saying vision. Do you hear two completely different things? Because I do.
Yes.
I want to touch on that. Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
And,
I think having goals are cute.
To me, a vision is more imaginary and a goal is definite. Okay. So to me, I want something definite.
Is a goal, because you have
you remember Let's Go Raven, or That's So Raven, the TV show?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, and she had a vision, it's hadn't happened. It might not happen. It's things like that. For me, a goal is just tangible. It's something like, it's your phone, it's your coffee cup, it's your iPad. It's something that you can hold. And a vision to me is more, it's imagination. It's fantasy. And to me, goals aren't fantasy. Goals are already done. You just haven't got there yet. And
so wrote down. Yes, I agree. Yeah.
And so that's why to me, goal is the word I like to use, and over vision, because vision is imaginary in my brain. And I don't want imaginary. I want concrete. And because you can't get to an imaginary place, but you can get to a real place.
If I tell you, me and our wives, and you were in Hawaii for a couple weeks last year. It was the year before, something. But this didn't happen, but let's just say I was there and I said in the morning, "Hey, Will, the goal today is to taste good fruit."
Mm-hmm.
And we went out and we tasted good fruit.
And goal was done.
Okay, the goal is done. But in the morning, I had this piece of fruit when we woke up, and we had never talked about fruit. And I said, "Dude, I want you to imagine the best fruit you've ever tasted in your life." You're like, "Okay." And I'm like, "Now try this." And it tastes like that. Which experience do you think? Hear what I'm saying. Which experience would you rather? Which experience would you rather experience?
But I think we're describing two different things.
I think we are too. Yeah.
Because
we are.
Because I'm thinking about business and tangible things. Now, if we're talking about something in life where you're like, I want to be happy, that's a vision. Because happiness is change. Like, what does that mean? That's something. But if you say on June 25th, 2025, I want to have $10 million in my bank, or I will have $10 million in my bank, that's a goal that you work backwards from. It's less emotional and more concrete. And so vision is emotional. Vision is there. And I don't think using the word vision is wrong. It's just for me, goal that's something that's already, I can grab it. You can't grab the vision. It's
well, I guess it's because a lot of people say, oh, well, the goal is to be happy.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm using the word wrongly. I tell people,
I don't think so.
And absolutely, we have to have goals. We have to be written down, and we work towards them. But when people break down their goals of their business per se, I'll give you an example. I deal with brand new businesses opening almost daily, and say, well, what's your goals? Well, it's to try to do a
3.5, yeah,
$500,000 this year, blah blah blah. Okay, what I think I want to have like 3 or 4 gutter trucks. Okay, yeah, that's cool. Blah blah blah. Now, if I ask them, what's your vision? Oh man, it's to pay for all my kids to go to college. Okay, what else? I'm finally going to marry this woman, I think. And I'd love to be on a farm. That's where my heart's at. And she really likes planting. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Right. So they have that. I personally will get to the goals, like the guy that has the vision that tells me the whole why. Back to you, Will. Why do you want $10 million by May 21st of 2026? Why do you? Mm-hmm. I get people to move faster to their goal through a vision first than I do through goals first, and then the why, the vision later.
Yeah, I don't think you're using vision. I don't think there's a negative reason. Mm-hmm. The reason I use goals is because I just like definite. And the definite goal can be my children are in college, it's paid for. My wife doesn't have to go to work anymore. It's done. XYZ. It's just definite. Have you ever read the book Think and Grow Rich?
I like that. I like what you're saying. No, I haven't.
In that book, it's saying make your clear, definite goals and act like they're already done. Believe, not act. Believe it's already done. You just haven't got there. And you're looking at the future and you're bringing it to today. And that's what happens when you have that exact clear, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. I don't think the wordplay actually matters to most people.
Probably not.
And to me,
I might get it out of them differently by using the word. I get them to be more visual in their why. And then we're talking small business again. I mean, absolutely. Like, who cares about a vision if we need to create a $1 billion? You still got to have that and core values and all that. But I find most people aren't goal oriented, Will. So maybe I'm on to something in small business, attaching myself to their vision and working a little bit backwards from that, and then creating goals and standards for the company. Mm-hmm. And that's all.
Yeah, I think the vision is the more abstract. It's the more abstract. Mm-hmm. Like, I see my company being successful. I see this and that, and then you can plant the goals of what that actually means. And so I can see where you're going in that. Like, okay, what does it mean to be successful? And so for me, it's the goals are the important part. Though you have to have the target. If you can't hit the target. So,
and I think it's great if you have a partner in the business. If it was like me and you, Will, right? I'm going to be a little bit more culture based on that, and you're going to be more goal driven. And when we align together on that, and we take people on that journey in business, me and you got some work to do, brother. That's pretty cool because it's just different ways of teaching. I try to connect a little bit more psychologically with someone when I'm coaching their business. I want them to get to the point to where
there's a difference between coach and mentor. So in your coach, you're trying to shape their life. As a mentor, you're telling them what to do
in that particular line of business.
In that thing. So you're coaching and you're doing the encompassing of the person, to make them, you're not telling them what to do. You're telling them what needs to be done and then letting them surprise you. And so as a mentor, you're telling them what to do. You say, you do this, you do this, you do this. Or as a consultant, they come in and say, my gutter machine is only producing X amount of square feet per hour, You come in and you tell them what's wrong. You're like, well, your workers should be standing here. You should have these braces. You should have someone here with the snips. You should have someone here screwing in the whatever the bridge thing is.
Those finite goals you're talking about that need to be broke. Absolutely.
And so there's coach, mentor, and consultant. And the coach is the overall person. So I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to tell you what needs to be done. Now you surprise me. And which direction are you going to go? And a lot of owners and bosses aren't leaders because they're always telling people what to do, not what needs to be done. But there's a book I read called The Virgin Way by Richard Branson. And he says, train people well enough so they can leave, treat them well enough that they don't want to.
Absolutely.
And so to me, I think it's important to have a workforce that's constantly learning and becoming better people, better salesmen. Let them be so good that they could go start their own business if they wanted to. That's what you should be aiming as a boss or an owner.
So many people are so deathly afraid of that. And then there's a huge portion of people that say they swear by it, but they're deathly afraid of it. I love making someone so great that they can get away from me as fast as possible. I'll tell you an example of that as a technician in the construction industry, right? So whatever it may be, if we're doing roofing, gutters, siding, windows. The average employee does not want to train somebody else how to do their job. Why? Because they're nervous that guy might get better at it and take it.
Yep.
And I get a hold of these employees, and create a vision of climbing up the ladder that every person that they can train to take their job. Now, it doesn't mean that when their job's getting taken, they're going home and they're fired. It means that they're moving up and they will now be in charge of that person, because the more leaders we have building, the more leaders we have, the more, if the business model, product, service, whatever is gold, then we will multiply forever. But companies, corporations, most, not all, do not have a culture champion. This is completely separate from being a consultant, a coach, a mentor, any of that. If your company has a leader that is building more leaders, the company will absolutely grow at an astounding rate. And we know, based off of what industry we're talking about, if we're talking corporate, or if we're talking blue collar, white collar, whatever we're talking about, that at certain financial milestones, there does become hurdles, right? Whether just a random statistic, right, that only 3 employees out of 10 are going to be able to be turned into a leader, like a real leader, in a matter of under 3 years. Typically between 2.5 years, let's say the construction industry, 3 out of 10 employees that stay. We're not adding employees that might have only worked for a day or 2 or a week. Of your typical retention, which is 3 to 5 years, around the 2.5 to 3 year mark, 3 men or women out of 10, you can turn into a leader that will continue those same numbers for you. So you can do the math. 3 leaders, then 6 leaders, then 9 leaders. And you can follow that formula for quite a while. What happens, though, somewhere around the 9th to 12th leader is massive growth. Because there's a big difference in 6 leaders creating leaders for you and 60 leaders creating leaders for you. Is your product good enough to need that many leaders? And at some point in time in your business, do you say, well, we only need 4 leaders, and then we just need, I'll take Walmart, for example. You only need a store manager, and then you only need like a assistant store manager. Then you need someone to make sure people aren't stealing stuff and running out, so like a security manager. And then you just need a bunch of million people that like working for really low wages. A fairly simpler job, no disrespect.
No, a lot of people like it. They want to just do their 9 to 5, go home, play video games, eat dinner, and be done with it. That's just their mentality.
If inflation hasn't destroyed their bank and all their money, and they could have a cute little apartment, and that cycle of life works for them, that's fine. So I'm not, but there'd be something bigger there if they put another 12 liters on the floor in every Walmart. It's not like they don't have the money, and opened up all the lanes, and we started selling cars instead of just tires. I mean, I'm not saying that that's a great, I'm just saying that in small business, if you can just keep creating leaders, boom. I think big business too, that happens. I mean, again, by no means am I some amazing business consultant at an extremely billion-dollar level, but I'd be willing to bet that Tesla has a whole bunch of leaders, that Facebook has a whole bunch of leaders, that Gary Vee has a whole bunch of leaders, that these companies are empowering. I don't know, maybe that'd be Google or whoever, like really cool companies like my sister works for with her triple PhD, cool, like certain universities. They have a ton of leaders changing people's lives all around them and creating massive corporations built on excitement and fun and nothing super redundant, and people are inspired that way. And what happens is that those three leaders, somewhere in the 20s and 30s and 50s and 100s, you end up with someone that's like just a brilliant person, a genius, a super inspirational person, someone that takes all those other leaders and makes them great once again. And people aren't looking for that. They're not aware of it. I help people identify that in small business in groups of like 10 or less. So 10 people or less, we identify a leader. We get them to have a vision of, not a goal in this particular situation, a vision of what that could look like, a dream. And then, it starts with you. We just say that and then surprise me. And then, yes, I coach them. I mentor them. Depending on what day, what they need, they get something different from me. But I go, I believe in you. Do you? Is the question. Do you want to be that person? I see that person in you. So you have to have the right person to identify these people and kind of help them along their way. And once they figure it out, you've changed a life, and they start changing other people's lives. And when you can have that happen in your small business in America, magic starts to happen. Then the owner usually comes down and gets in the damn way.
Well, with that, a lot of times people put money as like in profits as their goal, and that pulls away from actually building the people up. And when you do that, you don't build a legacy. And when you build,
do you know why too, Will? Though, remember, like you're gonna, and I don't want to interrupt, but I want to say this, like. Someone might say right now, I'm still just talking about the emotion of this this possible philosophy of champions building and breeding more champions. No, what I'm saying is it's very expensive to have crappy retention. I can talk numbers with people. It's super expensive, and it closes and shuts down a lot of businesses.
You have to retrain and
retrain. So, listen, when I say there's absolute goals, financial goals, finite goals, but then there's this whole other side of why when people that are just focused on the dollar aren't actually running successful business.
No.
Because what is success? It's not wasting, let's say you do $8 million a year and your net, just to be really easy, is 10, right?
Yep.
So you're making $800,000 a year net. You employ a bunch of people, this, that, and the third. But what if the retraining on that's like $400,000 or $500,000? That's just wasted money. So instead of making $800,000 a year, you could be making $1.3 million. And what if you have 4 businesses? No, I'll show you the way. Stop playing around with the Leaders Building Leaders program. And if you're not the right guy, get out of the way, get a real leader in, and start to champion that and build it into your core values. But don't make it like a bunch of redundant BS.
Real fast, right there.
All employees care about other employees and crap like that.
But what you just said real fast.
We talk about pizza parties. Boo.
Yeah. What you just said, though, you said, get out of the way and get another leader in. How hard is it for a business owner to realize they're not a good leader and they need to bring one in?
It starts if they're willing to. Okay, that's a great question. Right now, we see a lot of coaching in the home service industry, right? And mainly on Facebook pages specifically, because you can tell a really broad story. There's some advertising on X and Snapchat and Instagram and Threads and all that, but it's mainly, there's these huge groups on Facebook for the home service industry, albeit gutters, windows, car detailing, painting, whatever. And influencers, or mainly wannabe influencers, and people, getting their foot in the door for the first time, are blowing it up with advertising. And rightfully so. There's a lot of people going, that looks like a money grab. You ain't even done gutters for about 3 years. How are you going to coach other people to be great? Blah, 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 blah. That is what we call, there's just a person that says, gutters are simple. You don't need a coach. Have capital, buy a machine, go do good work. You'll be fine. Maybe so. I mean, there's like 4 billion different personalities. So which personality is this person that you're telling is going to be just fine? A lot of people aren't. So the minute you say, maybe I could use some help, that's the time, hopefully, that you're going to reach out to a coach, a mentor, a consultant, and he'll be the right person for you, because right there you're being vulnerable. So to answer your question, it's like a lot of people say, I don't need any help doing anything. I'm perfectly fine. I'm the best father. I'm the best mother. I'm the best lover. I look the best. I'm
the best president ever.
Your boy. They talk on speakerphone in Walmart, on FaceTime, full blast, whole conversations, instead of like keeping their life private. Those people they got a goal, they got a vision, they doing them. Pants are falling off, whatever. Those people aren't going to grow probably because they're just doing wild stuff.
I think I see a lot of people that they end up getting in their own way because they don't realize they're not a good leader. They're trying to be a boss. They're telling people what to do, and it can only get so far. And if you're not building up, like you said, other people, you're not going to build a legacy of a business. You want like the Bill Belichick legacy, where he's gotten so many other people rich and gotten them paid. Yep. They might not have been successful, but at their new jobs, but he did help them get what they wanted. He didn't try to keep them down and stop them from being successful. He was constantly making them successful so the whole team could be successful. Like he took Tom Brady, the 199th pick in the draft, built him and cultivated that into being what was considered the best person. He showed everyone the way. And maybe some people have negative thoughts on him, this and that, but I do think he knew how to build other leaders in his culture.
Correct.
And I think that's definitely important for a business. And Richard Branson, that book I was telling you about, he was saying you have to pay attention to the people under you and the small things. He says if you don't have time for the small things, you're not going to have time for the big things. So how important is it for you to pay attention to the minutia of the business without having to be the dictator dictating every move?
It's really important. Like our conversation keeps taking these but we're still going up the hill. And so it's kind of like each question, I want to take us back a little bit. It's like I hand you a cup of coffee and it's the first time you've had this brand, and I want to tell you a little bit about the beans and where it's from, or like a good cigar. before you try it. And I want to do that with this here. The small things, what we call KPIs, right? Key performance indicators in the minutia of the business. Depending on your leadership style, are or are not important for you, particularly as the owner, to be involved in on the day-to-day basis. And what I mean by that is there's this philosophy that I have that I deal with mainly in small business, but I feel like it would work in a corporate setting too, is like, I don't have employees right now. And I have business partners for sure, but I want to take that. Like, there's a couple of us that own Gutter Growth and some other companies. We are partners in that ownership equity. Let's go down a little smaller. I want to tell you a story about Grant's custom home building. This is a facetious company. And Will, you and Gracie and Lisa work for me. You're my employees. And today we're hiring someone new. And so a gentleman named Scott comes in and he goes through the hiring process, and I let him know what we offer the employees when they work for us, both financially and benefit-wise, et cetera. And I introduce him to you, Will. We talk briefly. We hire him. And we come out and we say, hey, man, you've got the job. Cool. Let's say he's 21. He's really excited. So he calls his mom up. Hey, Mom, I wanted to let you know I'm moving out. I've got a new job. Can we write a book about that scenario? No. Okay. Flip that around. I've got my company, got you guys working for me, and I only have partners. Now, you don't have an equity in my company, but I don't ever call you an employee. I say, hey, man, we got a partnership here. See, I take the financial liability, and you're the guy that goes out and does the roofing. You take the physical liability. You are basically running your own small business on that truck. Here's a set of rules that work really well for our other partners that we want this business to live by. And you're going to get a percentage instead of an hourly wage, just like I get a percentage. I keep 10% net. The supplier gets 25% of it. The fleet company, Ford, makes some money. Everybody gets a percentage of the money. Uncle Sam gets a percentage. You are my partner. You have just started a new career. And now he goes and calls his mom. You're not going to believe it. Made me a partner. I got a career. This isn't just a job, Ma. I'm going to end up being a manager at this company one day. And then we're going to, okay, you could probably write a little bit of a story about that excitement behind that. I don't like the word employee. I think it's a horrible word. I think people should make people that work with them, not for them, partners. Doesn't mean, Will, if you are, working for me as a partner, doesn't mean you can take stuff and sell it. You're not an equity owner in the business. It's a play on words, whatever. But then there's a whole philosophy that goes behind the way that
you're wanting people to have personal responsibility for what they're doing. You're wanting them
extreme ownership.
Yeah, you're wanting them to treat it like I have an investment in this.
You get a percentage back.
So there's a book, I can't remember what book it was, but he said people will work for or people will pay enough just to stop employees from quitting, and people work just hard enough to stop from getting fired. So what you want are people working harder than just the mentality of, I don't want to get fired. I want to succeed.
100%. You really kind of stop thinking about the money per se, because in this environment, everybody's being successful. I've got this Principles, right, by Ray Dalio book here. And just to this point here, remember that in great partnerships, consideration and generosity are more important than money. And well, that's what it says. And that is so valuable. Again, you sit down with the business guru and he says, Grant, all this emotional stuff you're talking about? Well, people are freaking emotional. tap into that a little bit and build a relationship with them so they're not in fear of losing their little job. I feel like having a job is just like,
really,
people have jobs as long as they own houses these days, 3 to 5 years, and then a new job, and a new job, a new job, a new job. What if I tell you, Will, you're going to work at this gutter company with me, not for me, with me. I never remind you that I write the check. And Will, most likely in 5 to 10 years, you might go work for another gutter company. See, what I'm going to offer you here, though, is a beginning of a career, not a job. We don't mention job. We say, you hopefully will stay in this career forever with what I teach you, but I could close down. I could sell. You could move to another state. You could meet a girl in Brazil and get married and go there. But I've taught you a career. I've given you a foundation. I'm going to give you paid training. I want you to follow our system here. And you can take what I'm going to give you. Hopefully you give me a good notice and we become friends and go anywhere with it. And I'm going to invest so deeply in you at the beginning. I'm going to be selective, of course. I don't just hire everybody. There's a whole process to this. Going to be very selective about that. And then I'm going to give to you a foundation that you will have forever. Kind of, what are the odds of the loyalty you get in the longer term partnerships with people versus the short term employee indoctrination of pizza parties and only 1 week off a year and write-ups and just all that malarkey?
And when you're trying to get the people building the business with you to buy into your explanations and being part of it, it's like almost like selling a good or a service. And Seth Godin, I think is his last name, he says people don't buy goods and services, they buy the relationship, the story, and the magic. And so if you can take the people coming to join the company on a story, a magical story, and then you build that relationship with them, they don't feel like they're only working to not get fired. They're working to build something.
100%. And you got to make sure that the magical journey is real.
Yeah.
Okay? Because there's tons of magical journeys that are bull crap. And yeah, I mean, that's 100%. You can't just feed people, this place is so great to work, you're going to be a partner, blah, blah, blah. And the first time you get mad at them, you go, well, who writes checks around here?
You're fired.
You have to live and breathe this stuff.
Yeah. You have to believe it.
And I want an opportunity. I own some really good businesses right now that are going to do extremely well. The partners that I have, and I'm very confident me and you will indulge in something here in the next few years. Me and Jason Vasquez, we're really talking about a dog training service. Jason's really good at that. But I want an opportunity to work for a workforce. I'm fine with that. I want to add it to my resume, a massive corporation, and I want to change their environment. I want that shot. Do like a 1 year nice deal with somebody. I got an amazing amount of references. I guarantee you, give me a shot and I will help transform your corporation. Your employees will be running around smiling.
You actually don't have to work for a company to do that. You need to.
Right, I can consult them for sure. I get it.
I
want to just make sure that if someone out there needs to hear I want that on my resume.
Give me your unicorn.
Want to turn around one massive corporation, and of course, I would consult them, and there'd be a fee, and I wouldn't be their employee.
Give me your unicorn of who do you see needs your services? Is there something you've seen recently? You've been shopping, you've been doing something, and you're like, they could 100%. Use me.
The entire retail space is one. So I don't care, Kohl's, but like Walmart, you suck at taking care of your employees and leadership. For sure. Costco's decent, but like, I don't want to do something like that. I want to do something much bigger. Like, I want a company to come to me and say, we have a problem and we don't see a lot of joy in our employees. I don't care if that's Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Anheuser-Busch. Like, yeah, the Coca-Cola guy, when he's dropping off all that Coca-Cola here in Texas, he doesn't look super happy. He looks like he hates his job. Amazon, maybe you have a code of ethics or something, but when your drivers pull up, most of them are smiling. But I know a lot of people that work at Amazon, and they're like, this is the worst job ever, and the pay, like,
big turnover in their warehouses. That way. But I'm gonna tell you,
it doesn't have to be that way.
The problem in corporate is when you look at the Excel spreadsheet, joy is not one of the bottom line items.
No, for sure. But what I'm telling companies,
they would make more money if it was.
I told the brothers, if it was, you'd make even. Let the greed get you. Hire Grant. Be as greedy as you want. I'll help you make even more money. But let's stop screwing the middle class and the poor, because they just don't like their job. You guys don't have it figured out. It's not that hard. It's not. I've been an employee for my whole entire life for a lot of these places, and they just don't know how to treat people. It's absurd, William. It's absurd.
There's again, going back to Simon Sinek in his book, The Infinite Game, he talks about how everything became the spreadsheet, the bottom line. Employees got numbers. And so now you look at the number on the left, how much it's costing the company, and that's how you make the decision. It was never about building the lasting legacy. It was about how can I maximize and squeeze the most dollars right now. And that ends up leading to companies that fail. We used to have companies that lasted hundreds of years. Now they're not, because you have a board of bankers that all they care about is getting the maximum returns. So joy doesn't go there, but they don't realize they're hurting themselves by not making sure everyone wants to be there, wants to be better, and wants the company to succeed. When everyone wants the company to succeed for themselves and for the owners, you're going to make more money than you know what to do with, but people don't want to take that long-term approach. They're trying right now, the most dollars I can get, so I can tell my investors that this quarter, this is going to be your dividend, this is going to be that, and they're done with it.
Yeah, and again, only the investors, instead of the real investors, which are the partners that are working for you that people like to call employees. Every business that I've left for the past 15 years, has failed after. And I don't mean just fallen apart. They have failed from hitting their goal, and their goals have went less. That's not because I can do it all. And in the gutter industry, I'm a massive asset, but it's because of the way that I get the people and the rest of the business to work for the owners as this median to the typical. Kip has been an exception of that for sure. I just want to throw that out there. But prior to that, the typical owner bullshit and numbers only mattering. And every time I've seen we can exceed expectation and goals and have lots of happy employees, to going back to the regular just bottom line, a bazillion spreadsheets and the turnover. The company I worked at prior to Kip's had 100% turnover rate in 14 months on a 15 employee company. 100%.
You know, I've seen places where you've done the hiring, where you've brought in certain people, and I notice you often take a risk on drug addicts and alcoholics. Yeah. Why do you think you do that?
I've learned a little bit in this conversation about my mindset. I already know it, but I exposed it to myself. With the whole goal vision thing. When I hear vision goal, and I know exactly how you're using it, and this is all out of respect. I used it a little bit differently. You use it, and that's what's awesome.
It's what it is.
I don't look at employee and partner the same. I don't look at vision and goal the same. So I just use different words because I have a different mindset. So I connect with people completely differently than anyone else. There's certain things words I wouldn't use in an interview. One would be, what's your goals? Mm-hmm. Tell me about your goals, Will.
Yeah.
Why?
Where are you going to be in 5 years?
Your goals aren't going to align with mine. Tell me what your vision is working at this company.
It's
just a different question.
Yeah.
And I care about different things, and I coach people to care about different things. And right now we have 60 members. And so I own a company called Gutter Growth with my partners that I mentioned. And I think we just hit our 60th member. All of our companies that are in that program, man. And of course, every owner is going to say this, but I think you guys can tell, and Will, you know me, I just want to be like, all our people are doing amazing. This philosophy, this way of coaching and teaching people absolutely works. And it's worked on much more than these 60 members, because whether I was privately coaching or the tremendous amount of phone call, I'm probably actively really coaching 500 companies and friends and family and et cetera. This channeling our energy this direction and then getting to the goals works every single time. Because we put compassion into it. We remove the greed. Yeah, we break it down, the KPIs. We know what the gross profit needs to be. We know where we want to be to grow. We have all of our financial goals put out on numbers, and we exceed them. Why? Because when we put those financial goals in place on paper, on the spreadsheet, we take into mind other people, and that is our partners. Is it the hottest time of the year? Do we really have to add $10,000 to this month and push them? Or could we add it to a colder month and maybe make 1% less profit because the marketing costs more at that time, but our employees are 100% more happy and less stressed?
So what
is the longevity on those, that style of building revenue mixed with capabilities? Because capabilities comes over to a commitment of being accountable to a number that they might not have had a part of or a say in being possible. So we just take people and we just expect them to hit these numbers based off of who even knows what. Employees from 50 years ago. Maybe I had a group of guys when I started my business and I got lucky and I had the hardest workers ever, but then 20, 30 years went by and kids were more like they are now on video games and a different type of intellect, and the workforce isn't the same, but my regulations are the same, my accountability, my numbers are the same. And so I've got just a whole bunch of miserable people working for me, and I can't figure it out because I've been running this business for 42 years. It's a rabbit hole of stuff. It's just a different way of running business. Joy, you hit the nail on the head, Will.
Yeah, but my original question was, why do you think you are always taking a chance on people who are alcoholics and drug addicts?
Because they like vision. They like vision better than being goal oriented.
So you think I'm gonna disagree on that's why you hire them.
Risk takers.
That's not why you hire them.
They're bigger risk takers.
I think you want to be their hero. I think you want to get them going the right way because you knew what it was like to not have people take a chance on you. And then when people did take a chance on you, you flourished. I think you subconsciously or unconsciously repay people by taking a chance on those others might not give an opportunity to.
Yeah, I can agree with you on that, but I want to clarify just a statistic here. I think it's because of the way the question made me feel. And so I feel like just to put a statistic out here, and I think maybe more or less, a couple circumstances of me definitely helping drug addicts, especially like T.O., right, Eric, and like a couple people that are now dead. Statistically, though, I will not hire a drug addict or an alcoholic, just to be quite frank with you. That's probably...
maybe I should say recovering.
Yeah, or recovering. I'm fine with that. Like, yeah, I mean, if you're just come in and told me, man, I haven't been on meth for a week, like you definitely are not working for me. So I'm not, just to clarify that, yes, I love helping people. Now, if you told me you smoked meth 5 years ago, and you can articulate,
and you had a felony, and people won't hire you.
I would love to
Life's
help
hard.
People, yeah. So yeah. X drug addicts, troublemakers, those people have, well, let's be quite frank, they've probably been on a journey and have different types of muscles. They have a different strength, a different perseverance than your average Joe that grew up with the white picket fence and has never had any trauma, PTSD. He's not going to know how to work in extreme conditions. He's probably not going to be a great leader either.
There is a little bit of where people, there's a meme, it's meant to be funny, but it said, why are you worrying about today and not hustling? Does a crackhead ever think he's not going to get his crack rock? No, he goes out and does what he needs to get it. So why aren't you doing the same? And I think it does come a mentality of people who've had to survive and then feed the addiction, know that almost anything's possible. Like you're going to find a way to get it done.
You know, when you look at it too, myself included, but let's just take more like, I'm not like the hard drug guy, right? Yeah. I smoked some pot, drank alcohol, smoked cigarettes, cigars. But let's take a severe addict or like an extreme alcohol guy or something like that. Yeah. I mean, he's been through hell and back. And who do you know? Like, of course, it's like, who do you know? Because every addict isn't just in the limelight, but any addict I know that's an ex-recovering addict, someone that used to do really heavy drugs, smoke crack, shoot heroin, snort coke, all Scarface to the 70s or whatever, and they given it up, these people are wildly successful, bro.
Yeah, I see it.
If you can get away from the addiction, let's look at them. It takes 5 years to get over trauma and thought, and your brain has to restructure, and all your hormones and your adrenaline, your adrenal glands and stuff but give them 10 years later, most of these people, man, are changing other people's lives, donating huge, and are doing wildly successful financially and emotionally.
Yeah. Because that's all, again, goal setting. Their goal is, I'm not going to smoke crack. And now 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and then their 5-year goal is, I'm not going to have smoked crack in 5 years. They've actually been goal oriented by getting themselves off of it when it's the full people who are addicted to something. Like, I've never been high, never been drunk. So I can't really speak. I can't really speak on addiction of substances. So, but I've talked to enough people and listened to enough people that it's a goal every day. My goal by this day is to have gotten through the day without doing drugs or without drinking. And then they could start adding the other goals, but it's still goal oriented to where they had to do it. So I can see they're being successful. But look, I don't want to take up your whole day today. You got people to coach.
Yeah, but I appreciate that. I got another meeting here in a little bit. This has been fantastic.
But one thing I want to know is, what are you reading right now?
So currently at this moment, I just got done with Choose Your Enemies Wisely, and I am at The Imposter Cure. The Imposter Cure. I'm working with imposter syndrome. As you know, not maybe about the imposter syndrome, but it speaks to my childhood. I have an event that me and my partners have just worked so hard on. It's a convention coming up in October 9th, 10th, and 11th. It's called the Gutter Summit. I'm excited. I think I can't speak for my partners. I'm saying this publicly for the first time, but I think there'll be a day that the word gutter might come off of the summit, because we're going to change.
It's a leadership
lives.
Summit. I was reading.
It's massive, right? But we're angling it towards the gutter industry, and we're proud of that, right? So we've been working on that, and I'm running some courses. I'm emceeing the whole thing. I'll introduce everybody. This is a childhood literal dream of mine, not to run a convention, but of course to just be on stage and be in the public. I'm dealing with the little imposter syndrome. Like, oh, am I the right guy? I consider myself to be one of the best in the gutter industry, very well-rounded, not the best of any one particular thing. Some other people have higher things for me and lesser things, but I often, for many years, have thought, like, am I the right person? Should I be? It's so important for me to have not waste people's time. And so am I the person that should train them on this certain thing, or is there someone better and we should just get this person to the best person?
It's important that you get a hold of that.
Faking it till I made it.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that anymore with people's time as adults.
Yeah. It's important that you get that under control, because then you're going to be fake, and people don't want to buy fake. They want to buy something they trust, and they need to know that you trust yourself, and you've been doing this for so long that you really are
coming up on
the person.
Quarter century plus.
Because not only did you do it on the roof, on the ladder, on, out of the machine, but then you also did it from the office. You hired, you managed, you grew, you got things bigger. And most people have only had one of the angles. They haven't had all the experience, all the years, and all the angles. And that's what makes you the one to talk to them, because you've done it from every angle and you've seen what it takes. You've been in franchises, you've been in solo ownerships, you've been in all the different situations that you almost have an experience. And being the best person on that stage is to be able to tell your story and share that experience that makes other people better, give them the lessons they can learn from that. And that's why. So it's good that you're getting that under control and that feeling, but you shouldn't have that feeling, because there's not many other people in this industry that know what you know and can do what you can do. And so
I appreciate that.
Real fast on the book stuff. What is something that you want to let people know that you've read and it left such an impact on you that you think they should go read it too? To me, the first one for me was Think and Grow Rich. It was about the mindset of working backwards from the goal. That was one for me that I suggest you get.
I think it's probably, I'm going to say John Majak's book, the one that I just spoke about right here. And I've read
Ring the Bell
60 or 70 books in the past 5 or 6 years. I'm looking for something different while I'm reading, but Ring the Bell, whoever rings the bell the loudest makes the most money and leaves the greatest impact. And I think John knows I feel this way about this, but just so you understand, Will, he was, for me, good enough to touch on 2 points. Make the most money and leaves the greatest impact. Mm-hmm. I'll leave you with, that I only care about one of those things.
Yep. And with that, money follows attention. And if you're not being seen, you don't exist. And so
ain't that the truth?
And so for businesses, that's important. And for dream chasing, that's important. Well, everyone, this is Grant Hubbard here with us on We'll Go Further. Grant, I appreciate your time. Let people know where to find you on social media and a website you'd like them to go see.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're interested in our gutter coaching, which absolutely works for anything in the home service industry, you can find us at guttergrowth.com. My email is grant@guttergrowth.com. You can go check out our convention that's coming to Atlanta. That is guttersummit.com. Got a whole list of businesses that we've started that you could check us out. But come find me, Grant Hubbard on Facebook. I am the custom, custom gutter guy on Instagram. And hey, if you ever want to reach out, you just want to talk a little bit about my mindset, pick my brain, I'd love to learn and grow from anybody. Feel free to reach out to me. My phone number is 830-499-4423. Will, it is such an honor. I'm so proud of you to be on your show. And I'm really excited. Even bigger than being here is watching this lineup you are going to put together, because I know that it will be unlike no other.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your friendship. I love you. And man,
I love you too, brother.
We're going to do some big things.
We are. All right, man. I hope you have a great rest of your afternoon.
All right, everybody. We'll Go Further. Our first guest, Grant Hubbard.